After the complete debacle that was the 1998 American Godzilla, I'm honestly surprised Toho was once again willing to hand over the reins to Hollywood again. The potential for yet another disaster was all too real, one that could have potentially killed the Godzilla name in North America for good. Fair warning, since this movie is not that old, spoilers await you ahead. You have been warned. In 1954, the US was attempting to kill Godzilla using nuclear tests as a guise to what was really going on. In 1999, a seismic disaster occurs at a Japanese nuclear power plant that results in Bryan Cranston's wife being killed. 15 years later, he has gone complete conspiracy theorist because he is convinced that it's a cover-up and that something other than an earthquake killed his wife. His son, played by Kick-Ass's Aaron Johnson, is happily married with a kid to Scarlet Witch Elizabeth Olsen. Yeah, so Quicksilver is married to his sister Scarlet Witch in this. It's a bit fucked. Ken Watanabe, aka if you need a Japanese actor in your American movie, here you go, plays the role of Dr. Serizawa. Now, whether this is supposed to be a different Serizawa or a descendant to the original movie Serizawa, I have no idea. Turns out the seismic activity is actually a giant flying kaiju called a Muto. This one just so happens to be male. Not only is it a big motherfucker that can fly, but it can also discharge a massive EMP whenever it feels like it. But that's not all. Over in Las Vegas, another Muto, probably twice the size of the male Muto, pops up. This one is female. Ultimately, the Muto want to get together and fuck and populate the world with disgusting little Muto babies. But not if Godzilla can help it. Godzilla's first appearance is the absolute, definitive, perfect example of how you cock-tease someone. It's literally a perfect build-up. We just get glimpses of his spikes. The sheer mass of his body just coming to shore causes a massive tsunami. The Muto attacks an airport in Hawaii. The wave touches the airport. A nearby helicopter sees Godzilla's spikes rise out of nowhere, and finally, we pan up to reveal the king in all his glory. And then we fucking cut away. Later, Godzilla surfaces next to the Golden Gate Bridge. The Muto comes ashore after stealing the nuclear missile the army was planning to kill all monsters off with. Godzilla arrives and fuck off. I hated this the second time. If I remember correctly, I actually yelled fuck off out loud in the theater at this. The first tease I could handle, it was excusable, but no, 2 is too much. But don't worry, they do it again for a third time once the female Muto and Godzilla meet up. Just fuck you guys. The final battle between Godzilla and the two Mutos is entertaining, but it could have been so much better if it hadn't been shot entirely during the nighttime. The biggest issue the previous American movie had is addressed and corrected here. Godzilla has his atomic breath, but am I the only one who thinks it's a little weak looking? Don't get me wrong, it was cool to see, but when you compare it to the other Godzilla movies, it just doesn't look nearly as powerful. Godzilla gets his ass kicked pretty good, but he ultimately tail whips the bitch-ass male Muto into a skyscraper. To beat the female Muto, he literally goes all King Kong on her and mouth fucks her with his fire breath, burning her head right off. Damn. Of all the characters in the movie, the only truly well-written and interesting one is Bryan Cranston's character, but that could also be the fact that Cranston is one of the best working actors in Hollywood right now. But they kill him off before Godzilla even shows up. What the fuck? The trailers make it look like Cranston's gonna be one of the main characters, but no. That guy could make a singing turd entertaining. The same can be said about Ken Watanabe, but his character of Serizawa is barely given any lines, and the only important two he has are
we call him Godzilla.
And
let them fight.
The cinematography in this movie is absolutely stunning. There doesn't appear to be a single wasted shot anywhere in the movie, and every shot of the monsters seems to be done from either a low angle or from a perspective that a human could actually have. This means they do a really great job of showing off the actual sheer size of the monsters. Godzilla 2014 is a step in the right direction. Could it have been better? Yes. Was it better than the first American attempt? You bet your ass it is. This Godzilla is actually powerful, has the atomic breath, is completely unfazed by military fire, and actually looks like Godzilla. The Muto are okay, not very original looking, but I get why Godzilla was the only monster Toho gave them since Hollywood did already fuck up pretty badly once. Fun fact, my aunt lives on Vancouver Island where they filmed a lot of this movie and took to Facebook in a panic because she saw US missiles being transported on a train through her town.
So as hyped as I was when Godzilla 2014 came out, I must say it was really disappointing to have no battle with anything that was already established in the Toho lore. Instead, we got the Muto, which was basically just a generic Cloverfield-looking monster. I don't know what it is about like North American film studios, but they seem to, every time they make a monster, it always seems to look like that monster. Like it looks like they look like bugs. Why does it seem like South Korea and like Japan are the only countries that can come up with original-looking monsters? It's like North America, it's like either giant monkeys or insect-looking monsters. I mean, I imagine they had to use the Muto just because Toho had already been burned by Hollywood once before, and Toho was like, nah, you can try with Godzilla, but we're not going to give you the rest of the monsters. This is totally understandable. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was nice to see Godzilla fight something, considering in the 1998 movie, he didn't fight anything, except the military, and the military did more damage than he did. But, after years and years and years of waiting, we finally got Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, so, I mean, it wasn't Godzilla, but if you were among the audience members who sat through till the end of the credits, you were graced with, oh lord, promise. Oh god, the promise is something beautiful. I won't say anything. I'll just let this clip from Jane or Padilla say all there is to say. Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah confirmed for the next movie. I felt kind of bad for Kong Skull Island, honestly, because this post-credit scene made everyone forget the movie they just saw. And like, once again, the Godzilla hype train was preparing to leave the station. After years of waiting and a trio of some of, probably honestly, the most beautifully edited movie trailers I've ever seen in my entire life, King of the Monsters finally roared into theaters, and one thing became very, very clear to me upon its release. Critics really have no concept of what this movie was supposed to be. Monster movie fans aren't hard to please. You put Godzilla on screen and that's good enough. But you throw 3 more of the most beloved giant monsters of all time on screen with Godzilla at the same time, and put it in the hands of a director, Michael Dougherty, who is very clearly a fan of the franchise, well, you get one of the most fully realized Showa Godzilla movies ever, with a $200 million skin job. And that's all we wanted. Shit, I gave my theater my money 3 times, so it clearly worked. I will say, the plot is, well, I mean, it's basically Avengers Endgame. Fitting, considering Stark's daughter and his cabinet in this movie too. Dr. Emma Russell, played by Vera Farmiga, joins forces with Tywin Lannister, played by Charles Dance. Wait, sorry, yeah, he's always going to be Tywin Lannister now. To use a piece of electronic equipment called the Orca, and yes, it's a reference to the Orca from Jaws, to control the world's monsters to destroy humanity so that the planet can repair itself and flourish. Emma is Thanos, the Orca is the Snap, and the Kaiju are the Infinity Stones. There you go. There's your plot. Needlessly complicated, and about as dumb as I'd expect from a Godzilla flick. I don't understand what the critics were expecting. Fucking Citizen Kane? Meanwhile, Mark here, played by Kyle Chandler, who is no doubt questioning why he stuck his dick in crazy, is listening to wolves eat meat. 'Cause get it? He knows predators. Which makes the stuff he says later about tracking Godzilla's predatory patterns actually make sense to his character, unlike Kick-Ass from the last movie who just kind of bumblefucked his way into different situations. Or, you know, the 1998 movie where they take a guy who knows worms to combat a giant mutated lizard. At least this makes sense this time. Eleven's in this too, but she sucks, and she doesn't really do anything. The other supporting characters are all kind of lame too, with the exception of Ken Watanabe, because that man's a goddamn treasure and a beautiful gem of a man, and I will always love him in anything he's in. And even though she doesn't do a whole hell of a lot, Zhang Ziyi playing the Mothra twins is a great throwback to Mothra's origins in the original series. First time I saw this movie, it didn't even dawn on me that this is not the same Dr. Chen from before. I don't know why, I guess my brain just didn't process that she was supposed to be a twin. Oh yeah, and that Dyson from Terminator 2 is Houston Brooks from Skull Island. Nice continuity there. This movie's just peppered with Easter eggs and throwbacks to the original Toho movies. Like, did anyone else notice that the opening scene mimicked the 1954 movie? 3 stomps followed by the trademark roar. Exact same way the original movie opens.
That's just one of the more noticeable references. Or how about the fact that there's a skeleton of an Anguirus in the underwater city just before it blows up? There are countless others. And every single shot of the monsters in this movie is just, oh my god. I'm so glad I saw this on the biggest screen I possibly could. This is a gorgeous movie. Like, truly a stunning piece of art. Michael Dougherty knew the legacy of these creatures and did a hell of a job ensuring that their legend and presence evoked the kind of reactions one would expect from seeing literal gods walking the earth. The shot of Ghidorah standing atop the volcano like a literal hell demon perfectly captures how evil he really is. The moment Mothra awakens from within the waterfall, capturing her beauty and goddess status. And how Rodan basically smirks before he barrel rolls all those jets out of the sky like something Starscream would do. These monsters have great personality. I love it. You gotta love the part when Godzilla and Ghidorah meet up for the first time and Godzilla just like fucking blasts him with his atomic breath, but Ghidorah just like dabs out of the way like, bitch, you thought, and fires right back. It's kind of funny because Godzilla is always used to being like the apex predator on the planet, and then all of a sudden that moment he's like, oh shit. But I'd be doing a serious discredit to this movie if I didn't single out Bear McCreary's musical score, because goddamn did he ever nail it. It's such a great score that it would actually take away from the movie's impact if it wasn't included. Not only did he do an incredible job at breathing new life into some of Akira Ifukube's original themes, but also some truly incredible original pieces too. The whole damn soundtrack is a masterpiece. But another thing that elevates Bear McCreary to godlike status is that he also decided that maybe after 30-something Godzilla films, it was probably time at least one of them used Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla from 1977. I mean, of course, it's not the original. It's a totally juiced remake with System of a Down Serge Tankian doing the vocals, but my god, Zilla. Oh god, I hate that joke. Does it ever make me fanboy out whenever I hear it? I mean, it's shit like that that makes me love this fandom. But then I also remember this is the same fandom that sexualized Mothra and makes Godzilla porn, so then I just get sad. Damn, boy, he's thick, boy! King of the Monsters is just total fan service. It's basically a Showa-era entry in the franchise, but with a Hollywood flair. I can only imagine being a longtime fan of the franchise, and then Warner Brothers coming to you and being like, hey, so we want you to make a Godzilla movie. Oh, and we're gonna give you a $200 million budget. Oh, and you get to use Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. Please, God, I can only be so erect. And I mean, let's be honest, if I did anything differently, if I was put in charge of this movie, I would have just had less people, more monsters, and I probably would have given Mothra a little more screen time because they kind of did my girl dirty. I still have a hard time believing that this movie even came out. For Godzilla and Kong fans, this was basically the equivalent of our Duke Nukem Forever. Keep in mind, GVK was announced way back in 2015, 7 years ago. Growing up, I think the one movie every kaiju fan wanted was to see Godzilla take on Kong with effects that didn't look like, well, like this. And I'm not gonna lie, when Adam Wingard was announced as the director, I felt like I'd been flicked on the nuts, just hard enough to make me sick. Sure, You're Next was a decent indie flick, but then the guy gave us this, and this. Really, he was not at all the first name that comes to mind when asked who you'd like to see direct, a Godzilla movie. But now that the movie is out, and I own the 3D Blu-ray, because yes, I am a simp for 3D still. I've seen it a few times, and the movie's initial massive hype is worn down a bit. I feel like I can accurately talk about my feelings with this one without being blinded by the fact that, I'm watching a modern-day remake of Godzilla vs. King Kong. Oh, and this should go without saying, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy video. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I don't know, that's on you. So let's quickly go over what most people disliked about the last two movies. And I'm saying two movies because I'm not including Skull Island in this, I'm just talking about the Godzilla movies. The human characters suck, with the exception of Bryan Cranston and Serizawa, of course. We cut away from it too much to spend more time with said human characters, and the fights are like the way you treat an ugly person that you brought back from a seedy bar after one too many drinks. And by that, I mean you make it so dark that you can't see jack shit. Adam Wingard, on the other hand, was like, okay,
let's not do that same bullshit 3 times in a row. Every single battle, from the amazing ocean fight, to the city battle that made my inner cyberpunk simp froth from the mouth, to the final battle with Mechagodzilla, it's all brightly lit, clear as day, wide shots so you can see everything, barely any cutaways. It's like, yes, God, thank you, was that so hard? So already one of the biggest issues has been alleviated. So what about the human characters? They still suck. I think the only exception is probably Gia, because she doesn't talk, so she can't really be annoying. The villain guy, who kind of looked like Dracula if he was a prick CEO of some Fortune 5 company, literally the moment that dude showed up on screen, I was like, oh, okay, so you're obviously going to be a dick. And sure enough, he was a dick. Same with Isa Gonzalez's character. There's no way you didn't take one look at her and think, well, you're also going to be a dick. And for some reason, they tried to shoehorn in Serizawa's son. I can't even begin to describe how pointless that was. Serizawa was not only a huge part of the last 2 Godzilla movies, but a huge part of the entire franchise's legacy. And they're just like, oh yeah, dude had a kid, by the way. Has a good nut every time he drifts with Kevin. What the fuck? Julian Dennison is also in this, but he's just kind of there to be comedy relief. Same with Brian Tyree Henry. Literally, the whole cast is great, but they're so underutilized that it really doesn't matter. But that's fine, because we're only here for one reason. To watch a giant atomic lizard put the smackdown on a giant monkey. And in that respect, it delivered in every way possible. Never in my life did I think I needed to see Kong playing Frogger on aircraft carriers while Godzilla hounded him like a fucking serial killer. But man, I was wrong. And I feel like some people were upset that the movie sort of treated Godzilla like the antagonist while Kong is supposed to be the one we root for, but think about it really. Without the axe that Kong got from the Hollow Earth, Godzilla just knocked his shit in. He's absolutely the underdog, and Godzilla has never really been a good guy in the MonsterVerse anyway. He's an alpha predator, in a world with us little ants. When 2 wild animals duke it out in the wild, they don't stop to step on the bugs. We literally don't matter to him. That being said, did anyone else find it kind of nightmare-inducing when Godzilla laughed at Kong after he 360 no-scoped him out of the sky? I don't know, man. I know the old Godzilla used to belly laugh and shit, but there's something about the realistic looking legendary Godzilla smiling that is just so goddamn off-putting. And the one thing that was probably the worst kept secret of all time was the appearance of Mechagodzilla. The fact that there were people on the internet who somehow managed to avoid every leak and had no idea he was in this is just mind-blowing to me. Jesus, even Adam Wingard himself spoiled the fucking thing. And when I first saw the leak, I was like, why he got claw machine hands? I was worried, to say the least. And then I saw the movie, and I saw our new Mechagodzilla in motion, and was immediately like, oh yeah, that's the good shit. I think I can safely say this Mechagodzilla is probably my favorite rendition of him. All the mechanical pieces moving around, the fact that he's advanced as hell, but somehow still looks kind of analog, the laser. And how can you not love the fact that it's being powered by Kevin, the dumbest Ghidorah head? I love it. Also, whatever happened to Mechagodzilla? Back when the leaks first happened, there was a figure that clearly showed Godzilla wearing red armor, which in of itself is a pretty stupid concept. How would it have worked? How did they get it on him? You think Godzilla would have just casually chilled while they tried choppering in massive armor to drop on his back? I mean, maybe it was removed during the extensive reshoots the movie had, who knows? Considering the version of the movie that was initially announced versus the version that we have now are 2 very different beasts altogether. Or who knows, maybe it was just some stupid toy gimmick that they thought would work. But then why didn't they release it then if it was nothing more than a toy gimmick? Who knows? So, aside from the characters being lame, was there anything else I didn't care for? Well, and I know I'm probably going to be in the minority here, but I wasn't a huge fan of the Hollow Earth stuff. It slows the movie down to a snail crawl, and it really only serves the purpose of getting Kong his axe and giving us a little bit of his origin. I get why it was there, but it definitely didn't need to be stretched out as long as it was. And I know it tied back into Alexander Skarsgård's brother going into the Hollow Earth and the gravity reversed on him and turned him into a liquid pulp ass. I don't care though. And this is probably a minor gripe, but the movie's soundtrack was kind of forgettable, which disappointed me a lot because Bear McCreary's score for King of the Monsters is probably one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. That score is basically perfect, and while Junkie XL's score for GVK isn't bad, there wasn't really anything about it that stuck out to me. But those are minor gripes. Overall, Godzilla vs. Kong nailed every bit of hype I was anticipating for it. I think of all the legendary Godzilla movies, this one is probably the most rewatchable and well-paced. And believe me, I was hyped. I bought a 3D projector and turned my living room into a theater just because I knew this movie was going to be coming out in the middle of lockdowns when my theater wasn't fucking open. So if this movie ended up sucking, oh god, that would have sucked for me. And I know it's a bit of a long dead gimmick, but let me tell you that experiencing this movie in 3D, bruh, there's just something about 3D and kaiju movies that go together like bread and butter. You get a sense of scale that is just not achievable in 2D. So if you're able, I would highly recommend experiencing this with the 3D Blu-ray. King of the Monsters did not perform very well, and for all intents and purposes, I think most of us were anticipating that Godzilla vs. Kong was probably going to be the final film of the MonsterVerse. But then, the pandemic happened, and I truly think that may have been the saving grace for the future of this franchise. Not only was it one of the highest grossing movies of 2021 so far, but it's also one of the most streamed movies on the entirety of HBO Max. I think we made it clear that we want more, and there are already rumors of multiple new films in the MonsterVerse coming, including Son of Kong, so who knows, we may very well see the return of Destroya, or Gigan, or hell, even Mecha King Ghidorah. The future of this franchise is actually starting to look bright again.
What's he want me, you pussy?